Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about the discovery of penicillin, which gave humanity an effective way to treat bacterial illnesses, which before this discovery killed countless individuals worldwide. Before we get into history, I just want to talk briefly about what penicillin actually is. Penicillin was the first developed antibiotic in the 20th century. Bacterial infections are caused by bacteria that multiply rapidly in the body, and antibiotics such as penicillin attack and kill the bacteria as they enter the body. The discovery and development of penicillin can be traced all the way back to the latter part of the 19th century, where in 1871 it began its journey in Sir John Bernard Sanderson's lab. Here he discovered that little bacteria grew to areas that had higher concentrations of penicillin. Penicillium is the mold that penicillin is made from. From here, in the 1880s, Joseph Lister, he was the one who developed carbolic spray as an antiseptic spray to be used during surgery, took the idea that Sanderson noted and used it to treat a nurse that he knew who had a bacterial infection. This was ultimately successful and was the first case of known success using penicillin as a bacterial treatment. In 1928, Alexander Fleming, a bacteriologist that graduated from the University of London, would rediscover the properties of penicillin on accident. It is said that he was sitting in his laboratory that housed numerous bacteria cultures, and he was a pretty messy person, leaving these cultures lying around, frequently with their lids off. On some of the petri dishes he was looking at, he surprisingly noticed that bacteria, which was supposed to develop there, specifically Staphylococcus, had interesting looks. Around moldy areas in the dishes, there weren't any signs of bacteria. After further analysis, Fleming determined that penicillin was most likely blown in through a window and was killing bacteria in these petri dishes which were left open. He theorized that this could later be used to kill bacteria in people, and after publishing a paper in 1929, however, he did not pursue any further research with antibiotics, at least not for a while. In the early 1930s, Howard Florey and Ernest Chain, two Oxford scientists, began to do their own work surrounding Fleming's work from his 1929 paper. They and a team of researchers went to the British government for funding, but were denied. After, the pair still continued working on penicillin. They grew their own cultures of penicillin, acquiring only a couple grams to test on animals. They tested mice that were injected with Staphylococcus in a case control study. Mice injected intramuscularly with penicillin became healthy, while those untreated were deceased shortly. Then a human trial ensued, successfully treating a patient with an infection for 5 days until their little supply of the antibiotic was depleted. He proceeded to die shortly after stopping treatment. Alexander Fleming would then appear in 1942 and would treat a case of meningitis using penicillin with great success. Later, after the start of World War II, it became evident that a method to control the mortality caused by infectious diseases needed to be mass-produced for the Allied forces. It wouldn't be until the United States entered the war that the government became interested in the mass production of penicillin, and they would begin doing so, supplying penicillin to the British and American forces in North America and Germany. After the war ended, penicillin became a standardized treatment for the civilian population in the United States. The chance discovery of penicillin gave opportunities for the development of different antibiotics that would enable human and veterinary doctors of medicine to treat patients with different bacterial infections. Between cephalexin, amoxicillin, fluoroquinolones, and many other antibiotics available today, more than 200 million people get treated with antibiotics in the United States alone every year. While the development of penicillin and other antibiotics has been revolutionary and life-saving, there have been many negative consequences associated with their use. For example, misuse and overuse of antibiotics have led to antibiotic resistance. I actually right now have a sinus infection that I caught about a week ago. I cultured the bacteria at the lab I work at, and it showed a resistance to doxycycline and cephalexins, which I actually attribute to antibiotic overprescription for my acne as a teenager. In today's world, however, we have many other options such as Bactrim that can be used in situations like these. Problems arise in very certain circumstances, for example in tuberculosis cases in Russia that are multi-drug resistant strands. Other individuals have allergies to certain antibiotics. Fun fact, I myself am allergic to penicillin-derived antibiotics. That aside, the discovery and development of penicillin gave way to today's antibiotic production and a way to fight bacterial infection. would become known as one of the most important medical discoveries of the 20th century and is still one of the most important in history, which is why its developers received the Nobel Prize for Medicine in 1945. Thanks, guys. Hope you are having a nice summer and have a relaxing rest of your evening.